The air thrummed with a nervous energy, like 1,000 guitars waiting for the first chord. 10-year-old Lily clutched her mother's hand, her eyes wide as saucers scanning the ballroom. It was a charity event in Memphis, grander than anything Lily had ever seen. Crystal chandeliers glittered like frozen fireworks, and a soft murmur of anticipation rippled through the well-dressed crowd. But Lily wasn't interested in the fancy dresses or the sparkling jewels. She was here for one reason, and one reason only: Elvis Presley. "He's called the King, honey," her mother had whispered earlier, adjusting Lily's bow in the car. The King of Rock and Roll, that title had burrowed deep into Lily's young mind. A king. She imagined a crown, a velvet cape, perhaps even a throne. She'd seen pictures, of course, the jumpsuits, the dazzling smile, the way he held a microphone like it was a scepter. He looked every inch a king in those photos. Suddenly, a ripple went through the crowd like a wave, starting at the back and washing forward. Heads turned, whispers erupted, growing louder. "He's here. It's Elvis." Lily's heart hammered against her ribs, a drum solo in her chest. Her mother squeezed her hand, pulling her slightly to the left, trying to get a better view. Then, he was there. Not quite as Lily had pictured him in a velvet cape, but just as imposing. He moved through the crowd, a magnetic force drawing every eye. He wore a crisp white suit that seemed to glow under the lights. His black hair swept back, a slight smile playing on his lips. Flashbulbs popped like tiny explosions, momentarily blinding Lily, but she blinked them away, determined not to miss a second. People surged forward, calling his name, reaching out to touch his arm, to shake his hand. Security guards, large and serious, formed a subtle barrier around him, but Elvis seemed to navigate the chaos with an easy grace, stopping to sign autographs, offering a warm word here and there. Lily, small as she was, found herself pushed closer to the front, almost lost in the sea of adult legs and bodies. She craned her neck, trying to catch a glimpse, a real clear glimpse. He was taller than she expected, and his eyes, even from a distance, seemed to hold a kind of gentle sadness mixed with a bright spark. He was moving towards their section, his attention caught by a woman asking for an autograph. Lily knew this was her chance. She usually wasn't this bold. She was a quiet girl, a dreamer more likely to spend her time reading a book than pushing her way through a crowd. But this was different. This was the king. "Mom, I have to ask him something." Her mother, distracted by the growing excitement, just gave an absent nod. "Just stay close, honey." Elvis signed the autograph, flashed a dazzling smile, and then his gaze drifted, landing briefly on Lily. For a split second, their eyes met. Lily felt a jolt, like static. Lily felt like he wasn't looking through her like adults often did to children in a crowd. He was looking at her, emboldened by that brief connection and with a sudden surge of bravery she didn't know she possessed. Lily took a small step forward, slipping under her mother's arm. The noise of the crowd seemed to fade, replaced by the frantic beating of her own heart. She took a deep breath, clutching a small, crumpled drawing of a crown she had made that morning. "Mr. Presley," she called out, her voice surprisingly clear and strong, cutting through the din. Elvis paused, his hand halfway to the next outstretched pen. He turned his head slightly, his eyes finding her again. The security guard tensed, ready to usher him along, but Elvis raised a hand, a silent signal for them to wait. He took a small step towards Lily, a question in his gentle gaze. Lily felt a flush rise to her cheeks, but she didn't back down. This was it. This was her moment. She held up her drawing, her hand trembling slightly. "Are you?" she asked, her voice a little breathy now, but still determined. "Are you the real king?" Question hung in the air, oddly loud in the sudden curious hush that fell over the immediate area. People stopped their chatter, their hands frozen, their eyes wide. They all waited, wondering how the legendary Elvis Presley, the king, would respond to such a direct, innocent question from a child. Would he laugh? Would he dismiss her? Would he simply nod, embracing the title? Lily watched him, her heart in her throat, waiting for the answer from the man. Everyone called King Elvis didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss her. Instead, a slow, gentle smile spread across his face. A smile that reached his eyes and crinkled the corners, making him seem less like a distant idol and more like a kind, approachable friend. The air remained still, everyone around them holding their breath, eager to hear what he would say. He knelt down, ever so slowly, his white suit creasing slightly. He knelt so he was eye level with Lily, a gesture that immediately disarmed the guards and softened a murmuring crowd. Lily, still clutching her crumpled drawing of a crown, felt a rush of warmth. He wasn't towering over her anymore. He was just Elvis. His voice, when he spoke, was a soft southern drawl, deeper and richer than she expected, but filled with a surprising tenderness. "Well now, little darling," he said, his gaze fixed kindly on her. "That's a mighty fine question." He paused, his thumb gently tracing the outline of her handmade crown on the paper. "A lot of folks call me the king, that's true." He looked up, his eyes sweeping over the crowd for a brief moment, then returning to Lily. "They mean it as a compliment because of the music, you see." Lily nodded, still mesmerized. "My mommy says you're the king of rock and roll," she whispered. Elvis chuckled softly, a low rumbling sound. "That's what they say. But you asked if I'm the real king, didn't you?" He leaned in a little closer as if sharing a secret. "And the answer to that, sweet pea, is no." A ripple went through the crowd. Some people exchanged surprised glances. Others looked confused. He just denied it. The king denied being the king. Lily herself felt a pang of disappointment, quickly followed by confusion. Her mommy had said so. All the newspapers, all the magazines. Elvis seemed to sense her bewilderment. He patted her hand gently. "Now don't you look so sad, darling. It's an important difference. See, the good Lord above. He's the real king. He put the music in my heart, and he gave me this voice to share it. He's the one who really rules everything with love and grace." He paused, letting his words sink in. And then, he continued, a thoughtful expression on his face. "There are the folks who come to my shows, who buy my records, who send me their letters. They're the ones who give me this platform, who let me do what I love. They're like the real power behind the throne, you might say." Lily giggled, a tiny joyful sound that broke the tension in the air. The crowd, which had been silent, let out a collective sigh of appreciation, some people nodding in agreement, clearly touched by his humility. "And then there's a different kind of king, too," Elvis went on, his voice becoming a little more serious but still gentle. Lily looked at her drawing, then back at Elvis. She started to understand. It wasn't about a sparkly crown or a big castle. It was about something deeper. So, "I'm just Elvis," he concluded with another warm smile. "Just a man who loves to sing and who's mighty grateful for all the blessings God has given him. The king of rock and roll is just a fancy title folks came up with. I appreciate it, truly, but it ain't the real thing." He slowly rose, and as he did, he reached into his pocket. Lily's eyes widened as he pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden bird. "This here," he said, pressing it into her hand, "is a little reminder. It's just a bird, but it can fly free, reaching for the sky. That's how music should be. And that's how you should be, too, little darling." Lily clutched the bird, feeling its smooth warmth in her palm. It was even better than an autograph. It was a secret, a special gift. "Thank you, Mr. Presley," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Elvis looked at her, his smile gentle. "You're a special little girl, asking such important questions. You think about what I said, all right? About those real kings." He then straightened up fully, the lights catching the sequins on his suit, making him shimmer. Crowd surged slightly forward again, as if waking from a trance. "You know what, Elvis," said his voice now slightly louder, meant for both Lily and her mother, who had finally made her way closer, looking a mixture of flustered and awestruck. "You and your mama seem like real sweet folks, I got a little place, not too far from here. Nothing fancy, just my home. But sometimes I get folks to come over. Folks who are looking for something a little more than just the bright lights." He paused, his eyes twinkling. "How'd you two like to come pay me a visit tomorrow? See where all that music really comes from? No flashbulbs, no big crowds, just a quiet chat." Lily's jaw dropped, her mother looked completely stunned, her face pale. A private invitation to Graceland. Her heart pounded anew. Not with nervousness this time, but with sheer, unbelievable joy. This wasn't just meeting Elvis. This was an adventure. The next morning, Lily woke up with the sun streaming through her window, her heart fluttering like a bird's wings. She still couldn't quite believe it. They were going to Graceland, not for a tour with hundreds of other people, but for a private visit, just her and her mother, invited by Elvis Presley himself. Her mother had double-checked the address and time written on a small, elegant card. Elvis's assistant had given them. "It must be real," her mother had whispered, still looking a little dazed. Lily carefully placed the small wooden bird Elvis had given her on her nightstand, right next to her alarm clock. It was a beautiful reminder of the evening before, a tangible symbol of his kindness and his surprising humility. She spent the morning choosing her outfit, finally settling on her favorite denim overalls and a bright yellow t-shirt. She wanted to look neat but also comfortable, like she was ready for a day of discovery. The car ride to Graceland felt impossibly long. Lily pressed her nose against the window, watching the familiar Memphis streets slowly give way to grander houses and more expansive lawns. When they finally turned onto Elvis Presley Boulevard, a thrill shot through her. And then there it was, Graceland. It wasn't a castle, not with turrets and moats, but it was grand in its own way. A stately white mansion, standing proudly amidst lush green lawns and towering trees. A stone wall enclosed the property, but the gates were open, a welcoming gesture. There were no crowds, no tour buses, just a quiet calm that belied the fame of its owner. A friendly man in a suit met them at the gate, confirming their names with a smile. He led them up the winding driveway, past blooming azaleas and stately oaks, to the front door. Lily's stomach did a little flip-flop. This was it. The door opened and a pleasant-faced woman greeted them, inviting them inside. The foyer was spacious and elegant, with a sweeping staircase and polished wooden floors. But what struck Lily most was the feeling. It wasn't cold or museum-like. It felt like a home. There was a warmth to it, a lived-in comfort. "Mr. Presley will be with you shortly," the woman said, leading them into a large living room. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating plush velvet furniture and a grand piano. On a coffee table, Lily noticed a stack of magazines, a half-finished crossword puzzle, and a pair of reading glasses. It was so normal. Lily and her mother sat on a soft couch, Lily practically vibrating with anticipation. After a few minutes, a door opened and Elvis himself walked in. He wasn't in a dazzling jumpsuit today. He wore simple dark trousers and a short-sleeved plaid shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He looked relaxed, approachable, almost like any other friendly neighbor. "Well, hello there," he said, his voice as warm as it had been the night before. He smiled, a genuine, easy smile that made Lily feel instantly at ease. "I'm so glad you both could make it." He shook her mother's hand, then extended his hand to Lily. "Lily, isn't it?" he asked. "Yes, Mr. Presley." Lily managed her voice a little squeaky. "Please call me Elvis," he said, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. "Come on, let me show you around a little. Not the fancy parts, just some of the places I like." He led them through the mansion, not like a tour guide rattling off facts, but like someone sharing their beloved home. Pointed out family photos in the hallway, sharing a quick story about his parents. He showed them the famous jungle room, chuckling about the shaggy green carpet and the carved wooden furniture. "It was my idea," he confessed, a sheepish grin on his face. "My daddy thought I was crazy, but Mama liked it." Lily was fascinated by everything. In the trophy room filled with gold records and awards, he barely paused. "Those are nice," he said, gesturing vaguely. "But they're just shiny things, aren't they? The real reward is..." knowing folks enjoy the music. He took them to the kitchen, a bustling, bright room where a cook was preparing lunch. Elvis grabbed an apple from a fruit bowl, polished it on his shirt, and offered Lily a slice. "You hungry?" he asked. "Make yourself at home." It was this casualness, this genuine hospitality, that truly captivated Lily. He wasn't acting like a king. He was acting like a kind, generous man who was happy to share his space. He talked about his dogs, showed Lily a stack of comic books he enjoyed reading, and even pointed out a chipped coffee mug he always used. These small details chipped away at the grand, untouchable image of the king and revealed a man who was deeply human, approachable, and truly humble. The intrigue wasn't in the opulence, but in the ordinary moments he chose to share. After a light lunch in the informal dining room where Elvis talked about his love for peanut butter and banana sandwiches, which Lily found hilariously surprising for the king, he led them to a quieter part of the house, a room that seemed to hum with a special kind of energy. This was his music room, though it looked more like a comfortable den. Guitars leaned against the walls, scattered sheet music lay on a worn armchair, and a large, well-loved stereo system sat in the corner. "This here," Elvis said, gesturing around the room with a sweep of his hand, "is where a lot of the magic happens, or where I try to let it happen anyway." He picked up an acoustic guitar, strumming a few soft chords. The sound was rich and warm, filling the room. Lily felt a shiver of delight. "You know," he began, looking at Lily, "a lot of people think that being the king means you're just born with all the talent, that it just comes easy. But it's not like that, not really." He settled into the armchair, resting the guitar on his knee. "This music, it's a gift, a powerful gift. And with any gift, especially one that touches so many people, comes a responsibility." He strummed a few more chords, then began to hum a low melodic sound that soon turned into words. It wasn't one of his famous rock and roll songs. It was a gospel hymn, quiet and heartfelt. Lily had never heard him sing like this before. Without the loud band, the cheering crowds, the dazzling lights, his voice was pure, resonant, and filled with a deep, sincere emotion. It was a voice singing from the soul. "My mama, she loved gospel music," he said, stopping the song softly. "That's where I first learned to sing in church. It wasn't about being famous or about getting on the radio. It was about feeling the Spirit, about connecting with something bigger than yourself. It was about joy and hope, and sometimes about comfort when times were tougher. You see, for me, music isn't just about entertainment. It's a way to express things that words alone can't quite capture. It's a way to reach out, to share a piece of your heart. When I sing gospel, I feel closest to where it all began, closest to the real source of the gift." He wasn't just talking about music. He was talking about faith, about humility, about finding purpose. He wasn't bragging about his talent. He was acknowledging its origin, giving credit to something beyond himself. But the message, the feeling, the connection that lasts. He then did something truly unexpected. "You got a favorite song, little darlin'?" he asked. Lily blinked. A favorite song from Elvis. She thought of Hound Dog and Jailhouse Rock. But suddenly, in this quiet, intimate setting, those didn't feel right. She thought of the hymns he'd hummed. "My grandmother likes Amazing Grace," she offered softly. A wide smile lit up Elvis's face. "That's a beautiful choice, Lily. Truly beautiful." He adjusted the guitar. And then in that quiet room, just for her and her mother, Elvis Presley, the king began to sing Amazing Grace. His voice was powerful, yet tender, filling the room with the timeless melody and profound words. Lily had never heard it sung with such raw honesty and emotion. It felt like a blessing. As he sang, Lily understood that this wasn't about performance. It was about sharing a piece of himself, a vulnerable, spiritual part that he rarely showed to the world. It was a profound act of generosity, an expression of his belief that music was a conduit for something far greater than fame. It was a testament to his humility, a quiet acknowledgement that his true calling was to connect souls, not just entertain crowds. This moment, more than any award or title, defined his kingship in a way Lily was beginning to truly grasp. As the last notes of Amazing Grace faded, a comfortable silence settled in the music room. Lily felt a profound sense of peace, a feeling she hadn't expected to find in the home of the world's biggest rock star. Elvis gently placed his guitar back in its stand, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You know, Lily," he began, his voice soft, "a lot of people dream of being famous, of having everything they want, and it's wonderful in many ways. It allows me to do a lot of good, to help folks out, to bring joy with my music. But fame, it's a funny thing." He leaned forward, red sheen his can also be mighty lonely sometimes. People see the king. They don't always see the man. They see the jumpsuits and the lights perfect, always happy. But life, darling, it's never perfect for anyone. We all have our struggles, our doubts, our quiet moments where we feel lost, no matter how bright the spotlight shines. Paused, his gaze fixed on something distant, perhaps a memory, being called the king. It's a heavy crown, even if it's just a title. It puts a lot of pressure on you. People expect you to be flawless, to always have the answers, to "I'm just a man. I make mistakes. I get tired. I miss my mama." His voice softened further as he mentioned his mother. "She was the true queen of my life, a woman of deep faith and endless love. She taught me what really matters." Lily listened intently, her small hand tracing the pattern on the velvet couch. She had never thought about fame that way. From the outside, it looked like pure magic, a life without worries. But Elvis was showing her the other side, the quiet struggles beneath the glittering surface. "That's why," he continued, looking directly at her again, "when you asked me if I was the real king, it touched my heart. Lily, be cold to define a person. A real king, a real leader, someone who truly impacts the world. They do it with kindness, with courage, with tour." He picked up a small, worn Bible from a nearby table, holding it gently in his hands. "This is where I find my true strength. It reminds me that no matter how big I get in the world's eyes, I'm still just a servant in the eyes of God. And that's a humbling thought, but it's also a comforting one. It takes the pressure off, knowing you don't have to be perfect. You just have to try your best and let God guide you." Lily thought about her own life, about trying her best in school, about being kind to her friends, even when it was hard. She understood that kingship wasn't about being in charge, but about being good. "It's easy to get lost in all the noise," Elvis added, looking out the window for a moment, "to start believing your own hype. But my faith in my family and remembering where I came from, that keeps me grounded. That keeps me from wearing a crown that doesn't belong to me." He smiled, a gentle, understanding smile. "So when you think about kings, Lily, think about the ones who lift others up, who share their blessings, who lead with love. Those are the ones who truly earn their crowns, whether anyone ever calls them king or not. That's a lesson I'm still learning. Every day, mind you, it's a lifelong journey." Lily felt a warmth spread through her. Elvis wasn't just a singer, he was a teacher, sharing profound wisdom in a simple, heartfelt way. He wasn't talking down to her. He was talking with her as if she were an equal, capable of understanding deep truth. It was a powerful lesson, one that went far beyond music or fame, a lesson about the true meaning of character and purpose, something far more valuable than any earthly crown. The conversation in the music room flowed easily, as if Lily and Elvis had known each other for years. Lily, emboldened by Elvis's openness, found herself asking questions she never thought she'd dare. "Mr. Elvis," she began, still finding it hard to just call him Elvis, "what was it like when you were just starting out before all of this?" She gestured vaguely around the grand room. Elvis chuckled, a soft, nostalgic sound. "Well, Now, Lily, it was a mighty different world. No grand houses, no fancy suits, just a whole lot of hope and a whole lot of practice. He leaned back in his chair, a faraway look in his eyes. We didn't have much, you see. My mama and daddy, they worked so hard. But we had love, and we had our faith, and we had music. I used to sing in church like I told you, but I loved all kinds of music. Go stand outside the juke joints listening to the music. Drift out sometimes. If I had a nickel, I'd go in and just listen. I soaked it all in. I just knew deep down that music. He picked up a guitar, again, not to play, but just to hold it as if it were a familiar comfort. It wasn't about being better than anyone else, just about being true to what was inside me. Some people thought it was too wild, too new. Did you ever feel like a failure? Lily asked, her voice small. Elvis looked at her, his eyes soft. Oh, honey, everyone feels like that sometimes. It's part of life. The trick is not to let that feeling stop you. My mama, she always told me to put my trust in God. And to always, always be humble. She said, son, talent is a gift, but character is a choice. And character is what truly makes a man hand. The Lord will open the right doors for you. Just remember who you are and where your blessings come from. And she was right, he continued, looking around the music room, then out towards the sunlit grounds of Graceland. It was about the music, and about sharing it with folks, and about being grateful for every single blessing. It's like a secret, isn't it? Lily mused, clutching the little wooden bird he had given her. The secret of not being the king, but still being so important. Elvis's eyes twinkled. That's a beautiful way to put it, Lily. It's not a secret you keep in your heart, always reminding yourself that true importance comes from within, from how you live and how you love, not from what titles people give you. It's about remembering that you're just a small part of a much bigger, grander plan. And when you remember that, when you stay humble and grateful, that's when you truly feel rich, not with money, but with joy and purpose. Lily felt like she was being given a precious key, a piece of wisdom from someone who truly understood the difference between fleeting fame and lasting meaning. The afternoon at Graceland deepened Lily's understanding of Elvis. She saw not just the performer, but the man, driven by a profound desire to connect with people, to share joy, and to make a difference. As the afternoon light began to mellow, Elvis suggested they take a little drive. I want to show you something, he said, his eyes bright with a quiet enthusiasm. Something that's even more important to me than all the records and awards put together. Lily and her mother climbed into a comfortable, somewhat unassuming sedan. Not a flashy limousine, but a regular car, albeit a very nice one. Elvis drove himself, chatting casually about the changing leaves and the weather. He took them through parts of Memphis Lily hadn't seen before, past quiet neighborhoods and community centers. Finally, he pulled up to a modest, unassuming building tucked away on a side street. It wasn't grand or imposing. It looked like a community hall or a small church. This, Elvis said, turning off the engine, is the Memphis Youth Knelt Center. He led them inside. The air was filled with the happy chatter of children and the gentle strumming of a guitar. It was clear and bright, filled with art supplies, books, and simple wooden tables. A group of teenagers were helping younger kids with their homework, while others were gathered around an older woman, listening to her tell a story. This is where I come when I need to feel truly connected, Elvis explained softly. We started this center a few years back. It's a place where kids, especially those who might be struggling, can come for help, for a meal, for a safe place to be themselves. It's a place where they can learn and play and dream. He introduced Lily and her mother to some of the staff, who greeted him with genuine warmth and respect, not as the king, but as a beloved friend and benefactor. Elvis is always here for us, one of the volunteers whispered to Lily's mother. Not just with money, but with his time, his encouragement. He truly cares about these children. Elvis walked around, stopping to chat with a shy boy who was drawing a superhero, then kneeling down to praise a little girl's painting. He listened intently to their stories, his famous smile softening with genuine affection. Lily watched him amazed. He wasn't performing. He was simply being kind, being present, being a source of comfort and inspiration. "You see, Lily," he said, coming back to her side, "all the fame, all the money, it's just a tool. It's what you do with it that truly matters. If you're blessed with a lot, then you're blessed with the opportunity to bless others. That's where the real joy comes from. That's where you find true purpose." He gestured to a group of older kids who were rehearsing a song on makeshift instruments. "We've got a little music program here," he explained. "Teach them how to play, how to sing. Sometimes I come down and just sit and listen to them. Their passion, their pure love for music. It's infectious. It reminds me of myself when I was just a kid with a dream." One of the teenagers, a tall boy with a quiet demeanor, spotted Elvis and hesitantly approached. "Mr. Presley," he said, a faint blush on his cheeks. "We've been working on that gospel song you taught us. Want to hear it?" Elvis's face lit up. "I'd love to, son. Lead the way." He sat down on a simple folding chair, and the teenagers, joined by some of the younger children, began to sing. It was a heartfelt rendition of an old spiritual, their voices raw but earnest. Elvis listened, his eyes closed for a moment, a look of profound contentment on his face. When they finished, he clapped his applause, echoing warmly in the room. "That was beautiful," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You pour your hearts into that. That's what music is all about. Keep practicing, keep singing, and always remember to sing from your heart. Don't ever forget that feeling." Lily understood. This was the king, truly, serving his people, not from a stage, but from a place of genuine connection and compassion. It wasn't about glory, it was about giving back, about nurturing dreams, about making a tangible difference in the lives of others. This, she realized, was what a real king truly did. He used his power and influence not for personal gain, but to lift up those around him, especially the most vulnerable. It was a heartwarming display of humility and a powerful example of leadership through service. As the sun began to dip towards the horizon, casting long shadows across the Memphis Youth Odown Center, Elvis brought Lily and her mother back to Graceland. The earlier buzz of activity in the center had filled Lily with a quiet energy, a feeling of deep understanding. She saw how Elvis, the global icon, found his truest self in these moments of simple, sincere service. Back at the mansion, as they sat in the quiet living room, sipping on sweet tea, Elvis turned to Lily, his expression thoughtful. "So, Lily," he began, "we talked a lot today about crowns and kings and what truly matters. What do you think now about who the real king is?" Lily considered his question carefully. She thought about the bright lights of the charity event, the adoring crowds, the king of rock and roll title. Then she thought about Elvis kneeling down to her, sharing his doubts and his faith, singing gospel hymns in his music room, and the pure joy on his face as he watched the children at the outreach center. "Well," Lily began slowly, her small voice clear in the quiet room, "I still think you're pretty amazing, Mr. Elvis. You make so many people happy with your music." Elvis smiled, a warmth in his eyes thing to say. "But," Lily continued, remembering his earlier words, "I don't think you're the king, not like with a crown and ruling a country." She paused, then articulated her new understanding. "The real king, I think it's like you said. It's the Lord because he gives you the music, and it's the people who listen because they make it all happen." Elvis nodded slowly, a profound sense of satisfaction on his face. "You're wise beyond your years, Lily. You're starting to get it." "And," Lily added, her eyes sparkling with a new insight, "I think maybe the real king is also kindness and love and helping people, like what you do at the center, and how you teach those kids to sing." She looked at her small wooden bird clutched tight in her hand. not about being famous. Is it? It's about being good." Elvis reached out and gently ruffled her hair. "Exactly, Sweet Pea, you've got it. That's the real crown, the one you earn by living your life with love and generosity. That's a crown no one can ever take away from you, and it shines brighter than any gold." He leaned back, a comfortable silence settling between them. Lily beamed. She had taught Elvis Presley a lesson. It felt incredible. "Always remember that, Lily," he said, his voice earnest. "No matter what path you choose in life, always put your heart into it. Always remember where your blessings come from. And always, always use whatever gifts you have been given to lift others up. That's the greatest calling there is." He stood up, and Lily knew their special visit was coming to an end. Her mother also rose, her eyes filled with gratitude and awe. "Mr. Presley," she said, her voice soft with emotion. Thank you. Thank you for everything. This has been an unforgettable day for Lily and for me." "My pleasure, ma'am," Elvis replied, his gaze warm. "It was a real treat having you both here. Lily's a special little girl." As they walked towards the front door, Elvis paused, then turned back to Lily. "One more thing, little darling," he said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, soft velvet pouch. "This isn't a crown, and it's not a golden record, but it's something I keep close to my heart." He opened the pouch, revealing a simple silver cross on a chain. Lily gasped, her eyes wide as she took the cross. It was a sacred gift, more valuable than any jewel. "Thank you, Mr. Elvis," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. He smiled a final gentle smile. "Just Elvis, Lily, always just Elvis." As he walked them to the door, Lily knew she hadn't just met a famous singer. She had met a kind, humble soul who had shared a profound truth, a truth that would guide her long after the echoes of his music faded. She had learned what it truly meant to be a king, not by power or title, but by the quiet majesty of a loving heart. Car ride home was filled with a comfortable silence, broken only by Lily's occasional murmur of wonder. She clutched the silver cross in one hand and the wooden bird in the other, their cool weight grounding her in the reality of the day. It hadn't been a dream. She had really been to Graceland. She had really talked to Elvis Presley. And he had shared profound truths with her, not as a distant idol, but as a kind, gentle mentor. Later that evening, tucked into her bed, Lily couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed every moment of the day. Elvis kneeling to speak with her, his heartfelt gospel singing, his quiet pride in the outreach center, his words about humility and kindness. She looked at the wooden bird on her nightstand, then at the silver cross carefully placed beside it. Before meeting Elvis, she had believed the king was someone who had everything, who was powerful and perfect. She had imagined a life of endless applause and glittering crowns. But Elvis had shown her a different kind of kingship, one rooted not in outward display, but in inward character. He had shown her that the real crowns were woven from threads of humility, gratitude, and service. She understood now that being the king of rock and roll was a title, a tribute to his talent and impact. But being just Elvis, as he had called himself, was about something far more valuable. It was about being a kind man, a grateful soul, a generous spirit who used his blessings to lift others up. He hadn't just denied being the real king. He had redefined what kingship truly meant right there in front of her eyes. Elvis, back in the quiet sanctuary of Graceland, felt a renewed sense of peace. The little girl's question, so innocent and direct, had been a surprising gift. It had forced him to articulate beliefs he held deeply but rarely spoke of publicly. It had been a refreshing reminder of why he did what he did and who he ultimately served. He thought of Lily's earnest face, her thoughtful questions, her growing understanding. He hoped the little cross would be a constant reminder for her, not just of him, but of the lessons about the true king, about love, and about the power of a humble heart. In a world obsessed with fame and titles, it was interactions like these, small and personal, that truly nourished his soul. He knew the crowds would continue to roar, The flash bulbs would continue to pop, and the world would continue to call him the king. But in the quiet moments like this one, looking out at the peaceful Memphis night, he knew the truth. He was just a man blessed with a voice and a platform, trying his best to use them for good. And that, he realized, was a far more precious and enduring legacy than any crown could ever bestow. He lay down, a warm, contented feeling settling over him, knowing that in one small, heartwarming encounter, he had shared a piece of his true self, and perhaps truly touched a young heart.